Welcome to the first episode of Talkin' Walt. On this show, we're going to watch every single Walt Disney animated feature full-length film in order, and we're going to talk about them. I'm Hannah, and this is our special guest star.
Dan.
Dan, what's your favorite Disney movie?
Hercules.
Honey, you mean Honcules! Tell us a fun fact about yourself.
I may bash it a lot on camera, but I love Star Wars.
You do?
I know.
Today, we watched Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. Dan, have you ever seen this movie before?
This is actually my first time watching it.
And what'd you think?
A little dark.
A little dark. Very dark. Were you scared?
Not really. It was a Disney movie, but I can see where, 7 or 8 year old me would be scared because, especially, I watched Finding Nemo and I left the theater crying.
Oh. When I watched Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs the first time, I'm not sure if it was the first time, but I have a memory of watching it when I was really little, probably about 6. There are 2 scenes. They're both the running through the forest scenes. The first one where Snow White's running away from the hunter, and then the one where the dwarves are chasing the witch through the forest. Both of those, I remember how terrified I felt at those.
Wait, so was she a witch or a queen? I don't remember. Or
She was
both?
a witch, a queen, and a stepmother.
Sounds like that could be its own sitcom. Get on it, CW.
What I found weird is that she only had Snow White doing, menial housework, and then one day decided she was just gonna, murder her.
That was
that's a big jump.
Yeah.
Where are Snow White's parents? They never explain it. First of all, okay, so I don't know what happened to the mom. Some point the dad married this,
oppressive bitch.
Oppressive bitch. Snow White must have had really, really kind parents because her whole thing is, kindness and optimism and whistling while you work. So, she must have had, a really nice, mom. And I feel like her dad must have been nice, but why did he marry that scary lady? And where is he?
She murdered him.
That's a good thought. I think that's what happened.
Probably as soon as... Do you think he maybe was the king?
Well, I'm wondering if he's one of the skeletons in her dungeon. Because she had a lot of, dead... She had one on, a noose, and she had the one, reaching out of, the cage
cage
thing.
And the water's,
The water's still, right there, and he died, reaching for it. That was so dark.
Yeah.
I can't believe the same people who came up with the Seven Dwarves came up with that.
Well, I mean, the story was already there.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, they had...
No, but the designs. I don't think the Seven Dwarfs were in...
No.
The Seven Dwarfs weren't in the Grimm fairy tale. Disney made them up. And, if you want to research it, you can go online and look up all, the brainstorms for all the ideas for different dwarf personalities they had, because there were some really fun ones. Mm-hmm. I think they had one called Snoopy. Ooh, challenge time. Dan, can you name all the Seven Dwarfs?
Grumpy, Happy, Bashful, Doc, Dopey, who's my favorite, obviously. Love Dopey. I'm
2 more.
2. Something with an S? Something with an S? Sinful? That's in the
The Rejected Dwarf.
The Rejected Dwarf.
Snow White, HBO. Sinful. The dwarves are sinful. Murder. Lust. Sleepy and sneezy.
Sleepy and sneezy.
The 2 things I am in the morning.
And
if you were a new dwarf, if you were an 8th dwarf.
Sinful.
Sinful?
I'm sinful.
I think I would be quirky.
You would be. You are a quirky person.
Here's a fun fact. Is Snow White pioneered the idea of a movie soundtrack. So before that, no movies had soundtracks, but for Snow White, they put out a record with the music, and everyone else was like, yeah, it's a good idea. We should put out records of our music. They made a movie soundtrack.
I'm so sorry. I'm thinking of you as quirky and me as sinful in this movie and us animated. And you would be wearing your Harry Potter shirt and have your hair all colored but it'd also be a Smurfette situation kind of thing going where you're the one female Smurf in a town full of boys. And if we're doing in
That's how it is to take a computer science class.
Oh my god.
Funny because it's true.
Yikes. Shout out to the real world when we're in a Disney fairy tale right now.
What do you think about the message this movie sends to girls?
If you eat a poisoned apple, you're gonna die, and if you get laid out in the forest by 7 small people, some random guy will kiss you and you'll come back to life after 2 weeks.
Yeah, I would say the overlying message of this film is don't talk to strangers, especially if they offer you food.
Yeah, like a whole white van kind of thing.
Yeah.
Before the white van.
Before there were white vans, people were still pulling the same shit.
There were apples that were poisoned.
Well, you know what's interesting is that from Snow White's perspective, the apple totally worked. The witch says, oh, it's a wishing apple. Think of what you most want, and when you take a bite, your wish will come true. So she says she wants her prince to find her and take her away on his horse and for them to live happily ever after. Then she drops down and she wakes up, she's kissing the prince, she gets on his horse, they go to the castle. Bam! Magic apple, it worked!
I want to go and rewatch it, actually.
You do?
I do. I feel like I need to rewatch it in order to have a better opinion of it, but having this be my first time and also experiencing this as a 19-year-old is way different than experiencing it at like 5 or 7, which you did, right?
Yeah.
You experienced it young.
I've had this movie my whole life, yeah.
Exactly. So I feel like the reason I'm looking at it much differently than you, and you're seeing it as someone who's like, a hardworking girl who gets what she wants. That's great. I'm seeing the negative side of it, having grown up and, just being an adult in this world.
Yeah, I would say also you have a more cynical outlook than I do.
Well, slightly.
I would say, if I had to give it a criticism, that since it was the first animated film, sometimes the pacing was slow because they were so caught up in, look at what we can do! Like the animators. When all the dwarves are falling asleep, they show every individual dwarves. This is how Grumpy sleeps. This is how Bashful sleeps. And you're just like, okay.
Dopey sleep.
Dopey, yeah.
Oh, we didn't talk enough about Dopey.
What was your favorite Dopey moment?
When he wants the kisses from Snow White and he keeps running back into the house. He goes...
My favorite Dopey moment is his epic drum solo.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I like that the dwarves had a band.
What do you think they're called? The Sinful Seven.
I feel like their instruments were all unexpected.
Yeah.
I like that Dopey played the drums, that Grumpy played organ, piano, and and that Sleepy played, it looked like a clarinet for a klezmer type of getup, but then later they had him playing a saxophone solo. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Rock on, Sleepy. That was hella good. Thanks for watching the first episode of Talkin' Walt. You are the fairest of them all. Join us next time for Pinocchio.
Bye.
Bye. This is real. This is me.
I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be now.
Gonna let the light shine on me.
Ow, my butt.